people interviewed to see how many Americans believed that a doctor should have the right to choose whether someone should be on life support or not taking into account what the patient wanted. It says 79% of Americans say the doctor should be able to choose life support for an unconscious patient, even if they don't have stated in a will or anything that they want that. But when the debate came, if a seriously ill patient had indicated that they wanted life support, even if the doctor didn't think the patient's quality of life was good enough, that 85% of the people think that families should be able to get life support for that person. 14% believe that the doctor should be allowed to withhold the life support. Euthanasia is legalized. It's legal in Colombia, the Netherlands, Belgium, and also in Oregon. But in Oregon, they state that they legalize physician-assisted suicide but prohibit euthanasia. This study was done in Australia, and they interviewed several doctors, and they came out with these reports. It said that 3.2% of the doctors reported that they did euthanasia, the actual euthanasia. 6.4% reported ending the patient's life without the patient's request. 36.1% reported making a decision not to treat, and 19% of those reported no intention to hasten death. 81% reported an explicit intention to hasten death, and 54.2% reported alleviating the patient's pain with opiates in large doses. And of those, 77.2% reported no intention to hasten death. 22.8% reported a partial intention to hasten death. Euthanasia has only been legalized in one state, Oregon. This act, called the Oregon Death with Dignity Act, was passed in 1994, and it allows people to voluntarily end their lives with the help of a trained medical professional. There are certain restrictions included in this act, and each candidate must meet all of the requirements before they are allowed to voluntarily kill themselves. This act reads that an adult who is capable, is a resident of Oregon, and has been determined by the attending physician and the consulting physician to be suffering from a terminal disease, and who has voluntarily expressed his or her wish to die, may make a written request for medication for the purpose of ending his or her life in a humane and dignified manner in accordance with this act. There are certain safeguards built into this act as well to ensure that this is what the patient really wants to do. These include that the patient must first make an oral request, then they make a written request, and then they wait 15 days and then make a second oral request to their medical professional that they want to end their lives. At any point during this time, the patient is allowed to take back the request or say that they don't want to die, and any time that they make the request, the doctor gives them the option of doing this. As late as right before the doctor gives them the medicine, they can still back out in any way, shape, or form. They don't have to write it down. They can just say it, or they can have come up with a system that the person can just make a signal and they can stop the procedure completely. How would you like to die? A long, painful death, or a quick and painless death? Most people opt for a quick and painless death. That is what terminally ill patients are asking for. They are asking for an end to their suffering. I'm going to read a list of necessary conditions for a person to qualify for voluntary euthanasia. I found this list in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Advocates of voluntary euthanasia contend that if a person, A, is suffering from a terminal illness, B, is unlikely to benefit from the discovery of a cure for the illness during what remains of their life expectancy, C, is as a direct result of the illness either suffering intolerable pain or only has available a life that is unacceptably burdensome because the illness has to be treated in ways that lead to their being unacceptably dependent on others or on technological means of life support. D, has an enduring, voluntary, and competent wish to die, or has prior to losing the competence to do so, expressed a wish to die in the event that conditions A through C are satisfied and E is unable without assistance to commit suicide, then there should be legal and medical provisions to enable the person to be allowed to die or assisted to die. Suicide is not a crime. If a person tries to commit suicide and does not succeed, there are no legal consequences to this action. So why are people not allowed to ask for assistance when they are unable to commit the act themselves? There's a very interesting movie called The Sea Inside, which is based on a true story of a quadriplegic man who is physically unable to take his own life. A Catholic would say that taking of a human life is never permitted because human life does have absolute value, and from the Catholic point of view, our body belongs to God, so He is the only one who can determine when our life is supposed to end. I think it's important to designate the refusal of treatment versus euthanasia. The Catholic Church says that the refusal of treatment is morally acceptable because you're just going to die naturally and you're just refusing any medical intervention. However, euthanasia, you are asking for medical intervention in order to end your life sooner. That is not morally acceptable. In 1995, Pope John Paul released his encyclical entitled Evangelium Vitae, which means the Gospel of Life in English, and he believes that euthanasia is an attack on human life at its weakest point. And there's a quote from his encyclical. He says that no one can permit the killing of an innocent human being, whether a fetus or an embryo, an infant or an adult, an old person, or one suffering from an incurable disease, or a person who is dying. In this encyclical, he clearly denounces any attack on human life, including abortion, artificial contraception, and euthanasia. And he also states that we need to respect all human life and its absolute value from the beginning of life to its very end.